Okuoma biomesiede. Okuoma biomesiede o. Ohame okusi o. Oloroma okusi o ba eware dami ho. Where you walk by you tanta. Where you walk by ye gele gele. Utanta no revient ogiso. Eva ogiso erio giamie. Yes, brothers and sisters, once again, this is J.R. Sydney for the Sydney Table Talk Show, the XTTS. Well, the topic of today's discussion is the post-election period in Edo State. I just got an information from Nigeria that is really it's heart-fearing because we're talking about Tony Kabaka and his gang, the Akugbe Progressive Union's intention to unleash mayhem in Benin. As a matter of fact, the guy who called me and gave me this information told me that he's a member of the Akugbe Progressive Union. That after the election, Tony Kabaka had a brief meeting with a few of them. That these few of them that Tony Kabaka had a brief meeting with, for a start, Tony Kabaka took these guys to the Oba's Palace, where they swore an oath that they would do anything, any order given by the Oba of Benin, and that order must remain within them, and they must never leak it to the public. You know, we are all much aware about how the oath in the Oba of Benin's palace is conducted. You know, it is conducted in the most primitive manner and the most barbaric manner that you can ever think about. It is actually done in such a way to intimidate you. You know, it's like the oath in the Oba's palace is worse than the oath of the Italian mafia network organization. Because the oath in the Oba's palace that I have assisted, that you have assisted, that we have seen on the internet, because they are still there for us to see, in that oath. Now let us talk about the private oath that we saw. That is the private one. That's what was made for the public. But the secret oath is another story from what we have seen. What we have seen, the difference might be that we did not assist the human heads in the shrine where they normally take this oath. What we saw in the public was that these people were brought naked on buses. But in the real oath, in the secret oath, these people do not even wear buses. They are completely naked while they take this oath. Anyway, the contents of the oath in the public is not much different from the contents of the oath in the secret. If we remember the contents of the oath in the public, they swore that anything they see in that palace, over here in that palace, must never be revealed. And anybody who fights against the Oba of Benin and they refuse to fight back, their future families, their present families will perish. Even they themselves will perish. These are the wordings of the oath that we saw in the public, and these are the same words that are used in the secret oath. But like I've just said, the difference is that while in the secret oath, they don't even wear anything, and they swore before a shrine where human hairs are scattered. But in the public oath, we see they bring some of the components of those shrines to the public and give it to these people to swear. You know, they make them even lick it. You know. So having said that, Tony Kabaka took these people, they went for this oath in the palace. And then in this meeting, Tony Kabaka then briefed them about the elections and told them that there was a big problem, not only for him as Tony Kabaka, that the problem has to do with the Oba of Benin, Captain Osa, and some other powerful pro-Izeyamu men during the elections. And so, one of those present in this very particular meeting asked Tony Kabaka, but why don't we look for another way to get an alliance to the governor, to become a loyal to the governor? Tony Kabaka said no, the governor was never going to take their loyalty because the governor was willing to reopen the case of his mother during the days of Lucky Millennium. Was willing that he has heard from a very, very sincere source within the government house that Obaseki was going to reopen that case against him, and that would be a very big blow on him. And secondly, that Obaseki was going to open up to the public on whose company was awarded the contract for the reconstruction of the specialist hospital. So it was then one of those presents now asked him, what has the contract for the construction of the hospital got to do with us as members of the Akube Progressive Union, or as political rats or political thugs? He now told them that, look, the contract was awarded to the Oba of Benin, and that this contract has been one of the major stumbling blocks between the Oba of Benin, Oshomole, and the Governor Obaseki. And so when one of the other ones said, but why didn't Obaseki during the campaign open up this information to the public? Tony Kabaka told them that they do not know Obaseki, that Obaseki talks very little, but his actions, is a very mean man, that his actions are a very, very serious one. So he now told them, anyway, we have to look for a way to play a game. How do we play a game? We are going to kidnap some children of the deputy governor, Philip Schweibu. Then we are going to assassinate some big political men, powerful political men, who are aligned with the governor and his deputy. When we do this, now when the city becomes rough, or when the state becomes so rough, the Oba of Benin will now weigh in. And then we can now come in and say, look, we ought to look for the people responsible for these problems. Then we can become recognized again. We can be trusted. Then we have to work hard to ensure that those children that were kidnapped are released. That as we do this, we are able to set this machine in motion, this sabotage in motion. The governor would have no time to open the case of the Oba of Benin on the contract of the specialist hospital. The governor will have no time to open his case against him. And so the guy said, look, Tony, we have been working and we have done so many dangerous operations. But this kind of operation, trying to hit the governor, the chief security officer, is a dangerous and a very dangerous one to do. But Tony Kabaka told them no, that it has to be done, because they must realize that the Oba of Benin will never forgive Governor Obaseki, because Obaseki now has proven that he's superior, that he's the master to the Oba of Benin, not the Oba of Benin being his own master. And the Oba of Benin is somebody who is not going to forgive Obaseki. Captain Osaida wasn't going to forgive. So there has to be a way, and that way is that we have to be involved in all these operations. Look, my brothers, who is Tony Kabaka? Who is Captain Osa? And who is the Oba of Benin? When you look at their political antecedents, you will find out, or their social antecedents, as you can call it, or their history, you would find out that none of these three persons has contributed to the development of Edo State. They have nothing to show for their development. They are just people who do not have respect for the rule of law. They want to be there at all costs. Now, you see, this operation reminds me of how Captain Osa, Tony Adu, organized and disrupted a lot of people. You know, there were a few guys who came from the diaspora to set up agro-allied industries in Edo State. What happened to those guys? Their farms were destroyed by cows, led by herdsmen. As information reaches me, shows Captain Osa was the one who masterminded the destruction of these farms because he was planning his own farm. But ask me one question. Can Captain Osa can the farm of Captain Osa satisfy the entire Edo State of their basic agricultural needs? No. Captain Osa's farm cannot satisfy the nutritional needs of the whole of Edo State, not to talk of Nigeria. So why did Captain Osa decide to destroy the farms of these people? This tells you how desperate this man is. So it is no lie that he could have engaged Tony Kabaka Adu and his gangs of Akugbe Progressive Union to carry out this dastard act. I am asking the security operative in Edo State to weigh into this investigation immediately and carry out a preliminary investigation, because I think the Oba of Benin is well known. He does not forgive. He was going to strike back at the governor for losing this election because he lost. This election was about who is who between the Oba of Benin and the governor of Edo State. Once and for all, the issue of who is who between the governor of Benin and the governor of Edo State and the Oba of Benin has been settled through this election. Subsequent governors would know where to place themselves before the Oba of Benin, because his father started this whole shit of trying to suppress elected authorities during the days of Professor Ambrose Lee. But Ambrose Lee was able to put him aside. And not only then, even the military administrators that came and headed Edo State, his father tried the same thing. So that is exactly what he is trying to do. He is trying to superimpose himself on the people and make the people feel that he's the superior being, that the governor is just his son. Well, traditionally and culturally, the governor of a state should be the son of his traditional ruler. But this has got to do with respect, not submission. You see, the governor of a state or the elected authorities of the state cannot submit to traditional rulers. Because what the law says is that the traditional rulers are under the elected authorities. Okay? We should not allow Tony Kabaka to set violence in motion in Edo State, because this information, I think, is a very serious one. I'm asking the director of the DSS to carry out a preliminary investigation. They are planning to kidnap the children of the deputy governor and assassinate some close associates of the governor. And this operation is to be headed by Tony Kabaka, paid for by Captain Osa and the Oba of Benin. This is not a joking matter, because Obaseki is not going to allow what happened during the electoral or campaign processes to go down that way. Obaseki is bent on acting as the executive governor of the state, because the Oba of Benin tried a coup. What he tried against the Oba of Benin was a coup. Not only did he invite for a parley in his palace, he intentionally brought Obaseki and wanted to lower Obaseki's down a few days to the election, thinking that doing that would win more supporters to Izeyamu. But you see, as the good people of Edo State, as intelligent as they are, they went to the poll and they said, Ewo, Ozo Swewo, Eburoso swevo, eburoso swevo, eobazo swevo, iwe obazo swevo. You see, it is the people that elect their leaders, not the Oboro Benin. And again, Captain Oza, when I was watching him in his video, Captain Oza said he took Obaseki abroad with his own money. He bought his ticket, took him to China, introduced him to the business community because he was wishing well for the state. But anybody who has the minimum intelligence should understand that Captain Oza only took Obaseki to China for his own business interest. Because when you come with a state executive and meet with a business community in China, it's quite clear that the business community would want to work with you, would want to associate themselves with you, because the state government is a guarantor of their investment, not you. You are not an institution. And moreover, when you look at the kind of relationship that Nigerians or the Nigerian government has created in the international scene, because of the unseriousness or because of the corruptions that is prevalent in our society, the government or the business community in China would like to see a state executive. So we say, in conclusion of this very particular topic, the governor was doing Captain Oza more good. So Captain Oza should realize that his invitation of the governor to China was for his personal gains. Of course, to some extent, some people from the public working for these companies would gain something, but he was doing that for his own personal good. All right? I do not want to forget, because this is a serious topic. The Oba of Benin is in a big mess because he is a contractor that was awarded the Central Hospital in Benin. And since Obaseki will not tolerate any attempt to abandon that project or his embezzlement, they are bound to clash. What we see in the campaign is a smaller one. Oba Benin, knowing whom or how he reacts mentally, they are bound to clash. Obaseki is bound to clash while defending the interest of the common man. And this is where Tony Kabaka and his men should come in. They should come in to create some encumbrances, so that during these encumbrances, the state government would have no tension on that very particular project of the specialist hospital and the murder case against him. Now, that one has completed. Let me add another discussion here. You see, the issue of Obaseki's family betrayed the Oba of Benin is nothing but a huge lie. Obaseki never betrayed the Oba of Benin. Obaseki never betrayed the Oba of Benin. As a matter of fact, what happened was that the Oba of Benin lost that battle because he was never prepared, because he had no army, he had no organization. He was just murdering innocent people for human sacrifices, using intimidation, just like what Ewari tried doing with us. When we started criticizing him, his native doctors were bringing coffins to the streets in Benin to swear for us. This is exactly the same way Ovorame was living. Ovorame was living without having no structure. He was just making noise, calling himself Ovorame Nogbaisi. So as a matter of fact, we should realize was in that period, the British had already captured and then equally got negotiations with some communities or some kingdoms and chiefdoms in the current day Niger Delta. So the Oba of Benin was one of the last people, and their intention was not to go to war with him, but their intention was to get a treaty with him. But Oba of Benin, on the other hand, could not guarantee that treaty, because the Oba of Benin knows within himself that any treaty signed with the British is bound to fail, because he was not in control of those territories. So he was so smart that he was avoiding anything that would expose his true position to the colonial authorities. So finally, when the British came in, they had informations already that the Oba was celebrating Igwe festival, and in that period that the Oba of Benin was using human beings for sacrifices. So naturally, when the British came and met his missionaries very close to the river Ngelegele, those ones told the British that they should hold down. But the British would not hold on, because the information available to them that was the nice period for them to pressure him into signing that treaty. Because if he had used his common sense, he would have been able to understand that accepting that treaty was the only way out. But he did not, because he was not in control of the territory. And if any treaty between him and the British was bound to fail, because the king of Agbo then, the Obi of Owa, would have refused. The Ogiami of Utantan would have refused. The several other traditional rulers in those territories would have refused, because he had no control. He had no control over them. As a matter of fact, when the war came, the Oba of Benin and his brothers, who are chiefs to him, and his in-law brothers, who are chiefs to him, they were the only people who confronted the British. In Oriamon, they never confronted the British. It was Elenovia. In Umuode, they didn't confront the British. In Ikubaoka, they didn't confront the British. The confrontation, as a matter of fact, was just Uselu Ego. That is where the confrontation was. So when the British insisted that they must see the Oba of Benin, because they knew that this was the right time for them to meet the Oba of Benin, they insisted. As they forced their way through, they now discovered in the forest that a lot of people were hanged, murdered, used for sacrifices, human bodies, human heads, tied to trees. According to the explorers, they counted over 850 bodies dead. And this, as a matter of fact, angered them, plus the killing of their men angered them, and they went back to South Africa, where they got a reinforcement. They came back and they crushed Ovorame in 7 days. You see, Ovorame lost a war. The pretension that Obaseki sold Ovorame over is a lie. Ovorame lost a war. Ovorame had no armed forces. He was just making noise, killing people. The people of Benin should understand that Obaseki never at any time sold the Oba of Benin to the British colonial authority. The Oba of Benin should admit, you see, the Ovorame was not in position to understand the British colonial masters. But the colonial masters, who had a wrong perception of his personality or his position, felt that he controlled Benin to Agbo, Benin to Wari, Benin to Jatu. This was their understanding. But unknown to them that the Oba of Benin actually was just controlling Uselu, Ogbe, and some part of Yekuselu and Ego. Okay? This is exactly what happened. So you see, Obaseki actually never sold the Oba of Benin to the British. The Oba of Benin lost because he was not prepared, and because he only believed in the use of human beings for sacrifices as a means of acquiring power. He thought much of the mystical power without the physical power. This is exactly what led to his downfall. On this, ladies and gentlemen, I want to leave this information again. Please, for those of you, share this video, share this video, share this video. Governor Inogo Axel Obaseki May you live to rule us in peace and harmony. Deputy Governor Felix Schreiber, God will protect you and your children, but there is need to carry out a preliminary investigation on this information. Tony Kabaka and his boys, they are preparing to strike. Once again, brothers and sisters, I want to say COVID is real, so stay at distance. Thank you.